Donald Trump declares his victory in the 2024 U.S. presidential race, thanking his supporters and promising a new golden age for America.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
And as Trump supporters celebrate, Kamala Harris cancels her election night address at Howard University, sending the party's representative to the public.
So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation.
Tens of millions of Americans have gone to the polls to choose who will take control of the White House for the next 4 years. And though it's still to be officially confirmed with ballots being counted across multiple states, this looks set to be nothing short of a political earthquake. We'll go now to Donald Quarter to look at what happened state by state with results still coming in, especially from those crucial swing states.
Well, Rachel, in a momentous political comeback, Donald Trump declares his victory in the 2024 U.S. presidential elections in a speech to his supporters in Florida. We bring you the facts, analysis, and opinion in special coverage of the election from our studio. With all electoral votes are yet to be counted, Trump has a Trump's victory speech at his campaign headquarters in Florida as key swing states turned red on the electoral map one after the other. The candidate's supporters are already celebrating in his headquarters. Donald Trump also thanked his supporters and declares the intention not to start wars, but to end them.
But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
In the Senate elections, the Republicans have secured 51 seats, while the Democrats take 42. Texas and Florida, among other states, have given a vote to the elephants, while California, as you could see on the right of the map, and Washington opted for the donkeys. In the House elections, the GOP also led with 194 seats, with the Democrats are falling behind with 176 seats. And as Donald Trump scored one victory after another over Harris, the incumbent vice president's mood and that of her supporters was plain for all to see, with the Democratic nominee canceling her election night address at Howard University. The vice president's supporters could be seen leaving the candidate's watch party, with Harris sending a party representative to address supporters instead.
So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Donald Trump, as previously mentioned on the program, has already declared his victory, but despite that, votes are still being counted. Most of the map is red, with Donald Trump seeing success in all of the so-called swing states, such as Georgia and North Carolina that you could see here. He first won North Carolina and then Georgia after being in the lead there for a while, and then taking Pennsylvania, one of the key swing states in this election and in every election that we've seen since 2008 when Barack Obama was elected. Michigan, Arizona, and Wisconsin, as well as Nevada, are all still counting up their votes, but they are all leaning towards a Republican election as well. While Harris is on the track to secure, or rather has already secured Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, basically all these states in the New England area, the typical strongholds for the Democratic Party. And as you could see Maine up here is the outlier, right? They have specific rules about the Electoral College. So because of the fact that many people in Maine voted both for Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, it's likely that once they finish counting up those votes, part of the electorate are going to go to Donald Trump, while another part of it are likely to go to Kamala Harris. As of now, the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, is currently 43 electoral votes ahead. He's netting 267 as of right now versus 224 for Kamala Harris. These are, however, projections at the moment, and they are subject to change in the coming hours. And it will take a while before the final results are officially posted. But, of course, we'll keep you updated by the minute as the tallies emerge. Back to you, Rachel.
All right, Donald, thank you. And do stay with us here on RT as there's much more still ahead. No more wars. That is the pledge from Donald Trump in his victory speech to supporters in Florida.
You know, we had no wars. 4 years, we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
All right, well, joining me now is RT's Marina Kasreva. So talk to us about the reaction that we're hearing so far.
Yeah, well, right now, it seems that the assessment is that voters seem to have chosen the economy over democracy. Why? Because even leading up to this election in October, there was a Gallup poll released which said that the economy is the most pressing issue, of course, for voters. And we've seen that they're outraged that so much money, billions, are being sent to Ukraine, for example, to Israel. So they were not happy about that. Then there was another poll from voters who just cast their ballot, and it was from the Fox News voter analysis. And according to them, after people voted, they said that 70% believe the country is on the wrong track, and 63% rate the current economic conditions as poor. Now, who was in charge of those policies for the past 4 years? Of course, it was the Biden-Harris team. So, of course, this is to be expected. And now we're seeing that Democrats and the mainstream media, they're really sulking, and they've really resorted to trash-talking Trump, even comparing him to Hitler.
It's a pure Project 2025 in miniature in Florida. And that kind of extreme, sort of extremist, right-wing, fascist-type government in Florida, does that make it a more attractive place?
They want some good news tonight. I can feel the anxiety in the crowd.
You're talking about the propaganda campaign and the playbook of Trump. This is not new. This is not surprising. This is directly out of Hitler's playbook. This is out of an autocrat playbook. This is a way to, I mean, the things that Trump has done masterfully, frankly, is to get the entire, to get a big part of the population to believe that the game is rigged and to sow distrust in public institutions and the free press.
So the results, of course, are not official yet, but it does seem pretty clear that Donald Trump will win and become the 47th president. I'm already seeing a lot of comments in my news feed. People just cannot believe it, which to me I find pretty remarkable. What is the response from the Democrats?
Right now we're seeing that supporters of Kamala Harris are really doing the blame game and trying to figure out what went wrong here. And one of the problems appears to be Joe Biden and her association with him, that she didn't manage to distance herself enough from him, because let's not forget, she was his vice president during a period in which his disapproval ratings doubled to 58%. And she also, we've seen she struggled to answer questions from reporters who asked her, well, what did you disagree with Joe Biden during his presidency? What would you do different? She could never answer those questions. And also, talking about questions, we've seen that Donald Trump was really doing an interview blitz, and he was talking to some people for as long as 3 hours at a time, whereas Kamala Harris was very media shy. Her interviews were very short. They were always controlled by her campaign, so that didn't do her any favors. Her black background didn't even help her. We've seen that black voters, we've seen even Mexican voters, despite everything that Trump has said about them in the past, with his pledge to seal the border, even they turned out to the Republican Party in droves as well. We saw Muslim voters, of course, they turned to the Republican Party. And let's not forget, especially when we're talking about black voters, they were the stronghold of the Democratic Party. So things are really changing. And what's more, the icing on the cake, and this was clear before it was clear that Donald Trump is in the lead, and that's regarding the U.S. Senate. That now Republicans, it's projected now that they're set to get the U.S. Senate majority. So it looks like an epic fail for Kamala Harris. So we're expecting to see more trash talking and more accusations, of course, with Russia being involved as always. So stay tuned.
Pretty much blaming everything except themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know what else was funny? I found that some voters were saying that, well, you didn't give Kamala Harris enough of time. She only had 107 days to campaign.
Yeah.
And you would think, hold on a second, she was there for 4 years and you still don't know who she is and what she is about.
No idea what her policies were or
that
anything.
in itself says it all, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Marina Kostreva, thank you. Well, we spoke with Hassan Shibli, lead attorney and founder of the Muslim legal organization, who says it would have been a travesty of justice for the current administration to be reelected, given their policy on Gaza.
This is one of the ugliest elections in U.S. history because both candidates are openly competing in subscribing their support and attesting their support to Israel's horrific genocidal crimes. I think there's a huge percentage of the American Muslim population that are utterly disgusted with the Democratic Party, which frankly doesn't represent Americans or Democrats. I mean, you look at over 80% of Democrats, they are against what Israel is doing. They want an immediate ceasefire. They want Israel held accountable. 80% of Democratic voters are against what Israel is doing, but only 8% of Democrats in Congress are against what Israel is doing. The White House, which is under the control of Democrats, is giving full support to Israel's horrific crimes against the Palestinians. So the problem you have right now is that the reality is, I don't think Biden would have been elected into the White House if it wasn't for the American Muslim vote. The American Muslim vote is one of the key votes in the United States because the American Muslim population is spread in key swing states like Michigan. I mean, the population of Muslim voters is big enough in Michigan where it could swing the election one way or another. And historically, especially since Bush and the horrific war of terror that he led against the Muslim world, the majority of Muslims have voted, over 65% in the last election, the majority of American Muslims have voted in favor of the Democratic nominee. And I just simply don't think Kamala Harris, without the support of the American Muslim community, will succeed in this election. I think that we can bear to see the administration that was in charge during this horrific genocide be reelected. I think would be a great mark of shame on this country and the world to see that the same administration that enabled this genocide continue to win these elections. And certainly Kamala Harris as VP is part of the problem.
Strategic affairs expert Dr. Hamid Khan al-Mashriqi says the outcome of elections will have a lot of impact on American foreign policy and thus have a knock-on effect on Americans at home.
Definitely, it's always about the domestic issues when it comes to American elections. But this election have a lot of impact in terms of Americans' foreign policy. It's not only about Gaza and Israel crisis, rather it is also about Ukraine conflict as well. I mean, I believe that most of the Americans are very much listening to Trump, that his point of view that, America is using its resources and supporting NATO and Europe during the Ukraine war, and it is costing a lot of money to the American economy and the common Americans. And that's why he has given a very clear, signs that he will definitely pull off from the Ukraine war, and he would prefer not to go in further conflict. And on the other hand, the whole world knows that the very, very important issue is in America is about abortion, then it's about job employment, then it's about corruption as well. For the last 4 years, again, America involved in so many international crises, in terms of waging the wars and supporting Israel for killing innocent Palestinians. So I think it is the time for Trump to get more popularity, and we have seen even in the swing states, he's in a very strong position, and he's getting the vote from blacks from North Carolina. He's getting votes of Muslims from Michigan. He's getting votes from Orthodox. This American election have become the most expensive election in the history of Americans.
All right, let's cross live now to Guy Vensor, security analyst. Guy, good to have you on the program with us. I understand that you're a Trump supporter and an Israeli as well. Trump earlier in the day declared himself to be the next president of the United States, even though the results are not yet official, but it does appear that that will likely be the case. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm very happy as an Israeli and as a proud Jew. I think Trump is very good now to us, specifically after the 7th of October. It was very hard to fight and to continue and handling all the continuous pressure from the Biden administration. It was very hard to navigate during the war, and I think Trump will do very good to us on that side of things.
The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was among the first to congratulate Trump, calling it history's greatest comeback. What can we expect from that relationship, you think?
I think Trump and Netanyahu are going to work very closely now. I think the war that Israel is now engaging with the terror and the extreme Islamists are basically the world's war. So I think Trump understands that, and he will work very closely with Netanyahu to fight and try to cut off all the regimes of the extremists in the world.
There are a number of reports and opinions saying that Israel was actually rooting for Trump to become president. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's one thing to have a personal opinion, but do you think it really mattered to Israel who won the U.S. presidential election?
Yes. I can tell you that yesterday we all talked about it. Even today, everybody was glued to the screens. It means a lot to us. A lot of us are now in fighting, in combat, in the military, in security, and we very want to be supported. We need the support of the United States. They are very close friends to us. So Trump means a lot to us.
One of Trump's main campaign promises is to end wars, including the wars in Gaza and now Lebanon. What are your thoughts on that? How could he end those wars, you think?
I think that Trump will let us do what we need to do. I mean, I don't think it's very easy to end the wars in time specific. We cannot do it in a month or two. We have to do it very carefully. We try not to hurt civilians. We try to find the best solutions on how to fight the extremists, but let the people live, don't occupy any land. So it's very hard. It's hard to navigate, but I think Trump understands that, and he will give us the leeway and the space to navigate through these times, and of course the support.
Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law, he's married to Trump's daughter Ivanka. So he and Netanyahu have often been seen working together and are known to have a close relationship. What can you tell us about that relationship, and how does that reflect on bilateral relations between the countries?
Well, so it's no secret that Netanyahu started his political career in the U.S. and he's American, and he's very loved and popular in America. And I think that most of his meetings with Jared Kushner and with Trump, with Ivanka, is trying to understand what's going on in the U.S. and trying to best accommodate ourselves with them and try to to stay strong together, if it makes sense.
The Israeli Prime Minister just sacked Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. What do you make of that move coming right during the U.S. presidential elections?
Well, I think it's something that should have been done maybe two months or 3 months ago. And I think that this is a message. In case of Trump won't get elected, I think Trump will give us the leeway. But in case Trump won't, I think it's a message to the Democrats and to Kamala Harris that we are not going to align ourselves specifically with what they want politically. We need to, first of all, see what's best for us security-wise and nationally-wise, and then work with them. And I think this was the message.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Guy Vensor, security analyst. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, too.
All right, let's cross now to Ofer Kasif, who is a member of the Israeli Knesset. Ofer, good to have you on the program with us again. Trump declared himself to be the next president of the United States, even though I just want to reiterate the official results aren't fully released yet. But it is known that the Israeli government was very pro-Trump in his candidacy. What does Trump's potential win mean for Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet?
Well, one criminal normally or very often finds a common language with another criminal. So the main thing that combines those two is their first personality. We are talking about misogynists and psychopaths who care only about themselves and they just seek the best way to pursue and achieve their own interests by using any fellow as an instrument and nothing more than that. And politically speaking, both belong to the far right, not to say fascist camp. So they have many things in common, unfortunately. This is a very bleak day for the Democrats. And I'm not talking about the Democratic Party in the United States, which I'm very, very critical of. If you like, I can say something about it later. I'm talking about real Democrats who are seeking, human rights, liberation, equality. For us, it's a very, very bleak day.
The U.S. has given Israel essentially blanket support since the war in Gaza began. What changes, if any, are expected over Washington's support for Israel's war when Trump enters the White House?
Well, first of all, you're totally right. And here you're touching exactly what I said before about my criticism, to say the least, of the Democratic Party in general and Biden's administration, including Mrs. Harris in particular. They've been supporting the genocide that the government of Israel has been pursuing almost a year now. So they, on the one hand, their rhetoric was sometimes, not very often, promising. Stop the bloodshed, you have to release the hostages, etc. But in practice, the Biden's administration, and again, including Mrs. Harris, have been supporting the ongoing genocide in Gaza Strip, including the ethnic cleansing of Jabalia and northern Gaza in the last few days, and as well as the ethnic cleansing, the violent, deadly ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, the occupation, the massacre in Lebanon, wiping out entire villages in southern Lebanon, not to mention Gaza. All of these was under the auspices of Biden's administration. So in that sense, I'm afraid that Trump's administration is going to be the same or even perhaps worse. But there is another issue that we should address, and this is the ongoing coup d'etat within Israel, with the intention of this fascist government to turn the regime of Israel into a full-fledged fascist dictatorship. So in that sense, I'm afraid that Trump and his administration are going to give the Israeli government carte blanche to pursue this fascist coup. In that sense, I think that the change of the administration in the United States is particularly more influential on the domestic political issues of Israel rather than the international ones.
Trump, one of his main campaign promises was to end these wars, the Ukraine conflict and then the war in Gaza and now Lebanon. Surely that is welcome news. But do you expect Trump to actually help negotiate an end to this war?
First of all, the big question is, what does he mean in ending the war? Wars in general can be ended in different ways. One way can be, total wiping out of your rival, which in the case of Israel versus the Palestinians is extermination. We are not very far from there, unfortunately. So does Mr. Trump mean that, or does it mean to stop immediately the carnage in order to save lives, including of the Israeli hostages, let alone the thousands and millions of Palestinians who have been butchered by Israel under the auspices of Biden's administration? I don't know what he means. This is one thing. Secondly, Mr. Trump is unpredictable for different, I may say, psychological reasons, perhaps, rather than political ones. And because of that, I cannot really say for sure what he's going to do. We have seen the last time that he was a president, he supported terrible crimes committed by the then Netanyahu's government, such as, transferring the embassy of the United States to Jerusalem, supporting and pursuing in practice, annexation, although rhetorically they spoke against it, nominating someone, a fanatic bigot, racist, like Mr. Friedman, into the then ambassador, the American ambassador in Israel, and now he supposedly may be a minister, perhaps the Secretary of State, I don't know. So one thing that we should bear in mind and pay attention to is also who is going to be in the different positions in Trump's administration. That will tell us a lot.
Benjamin Netanyahu has been supporting Donald Trump more than the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, but the Democratic Party has given full support to Israel's actions. Why do you think it would matter to Netanyahu who wins?
Well, first of all, it's not only Trump. Netanyahu continuously supported, the right wing everywhere that he can, because he himself is a right wing bigot. So there is almost, an international or global pact of the fanatics and bigots, such as Orban in Hungary, or Modi in India, or Milei in Argentina, and Trump. So that shouldn't come as a surprise. Netanyahu is a fascist thug. So his allies are naturally fascist thugs.
As the U.S. chose its next leader, Netanyahu sacked his defense minister. What are your thoughts on the timing of this move, and why did Netanyahu do it?
First of all, let's not forget that the ex-defense minister, tomorrow is going to be formally the ex-defense minister, Mr. Gallant, is part, not just a part, he's one of the leading figures in the ongoing war crimes that Israel has been executing or has been responsible for in Gaza. So I'm not, although I will say something about this situation that Netanyahu fired him in a second, but I must say, for the record, that in contrast to many demonstrators in Israel now who demonstrate against the very fact that Netanyahu fired him, I will not be, I won't miss, so to speak, Mr. Gallant as a defense minister, because he was responsible for those atrocities in Gaza, including the genocide there. So there's no reason to lament his departure from this position. I've been saying that, still, it's going to be more problematic given the new defense minister, because the new one is going to align totally with Netanyahu, and that means not only that the atrocities in Gaza and the West Bank and Lebanon may be even worse, but first and foremost, as I said before, in regard to the domestic issues, that means a final sacrifice of the Israeli hostages. It seems that with this nomination of Mr. Katz to a defense minister, it means, or it symbols, or it indicates to this government final departure from any attempt to release the dying in agony Israeli hostages. And of course, this also shows that the fascists coup within Israel is going to go to get stronger and deeper and wider. So in that sense, it seems that this is another layer or stage, a crucial one, towards the authoritarian and autocratian regime in Israel. That is to say, a regime in which only one person dictates to everyone what one should or should not do or say. So we can see that the power is going to be even more concentrated in the hands of Netanyahu, and that means a lot, not only to the terrible fate of the hostages and their families, but also to our Israeli citizens' basic civil rights. That means that we are going to face a terrible assault, which already began, but I'm afraid it's going to be a stronger and deeper and worse assault on basic rights like the right of association, of freedom of speech, independent judiciary, and independent media. All of those are going to be under a terrible attack, even more than before. That's the real meaning of the change in the government, because vis-a-vis the Palestinians, unfortunately, the Palestinians have been butchered by Israel in the last year, and unfortunately it's going to continue.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Ofer Kasef, member of the Israeli Knesset. Ofer, thank you.
Thank you very much.